Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my home state of Georgia, there are thousands of aerospace employees working for large aerospace corporations that export more than $8.5 billion in aerospace products annually. Additionally, the Georgia Institute of Technology School of Aerospace Engineering is the largest aerospace engineering program in the United States and was ranked third in the 2014 rankings of the best undergraduate engineering programs by U.S. News and World Report. Because of our educational institutions, skilled workforce, and large manufacturing operations, I believe Georgia is poised to become a leader in the space sector if we remain vigilant and focused on preparing our workforce. As commercial space exploration increases, how will aerospace workforce needs change, and what should we be doing to prepare the next aerospace workforce?
I'll take that. I think what's important is there's amazing innovation going on in this industry right now, and some of the leading universities, much like Georgia Tech, is responsible for training the next generation of engineers that will innovate in that way. So when we talk about things like reusability and alternative architectures, finding the way to enhance the safety of these vehicles while driving costs down through innovative measures, that has been really, really important for this industry, and it will be going forward. And Blue Origin has proudly partnered with a number of great engineering universities to support those efforts.
I'll add on that we've seen it quite dramatically in my profession and in my industry. Commercial success entices people to want to go join that. It's exciting, it's doing well, there's a career opportunity to be productive and add something exciting to the economy and to your family and to science in many cases. It will naturally attract the best and the brightest. During periods in my industry when bankruptcies were rampant and there was not any commercial success, we had a horrible time attracting people to become airline pilots. And we're paying for a little bit there right now. Over the last 10 years, though, it's improved dramatically, and the flight schools are full. So I think that's great evidence that if the expected commercial success we see from these companies happens, they're not going to have any trouble attracting people to the industry.
Thank you. And I'll ask this of the panel. In your opinion, are there any current FAA regulations that are inhibiting private sector growth?
Well, I would say that there are examples within the launch licensing regime, regulatory regime, that's inhibiting innovation, and that is the prescriptive approach to the expendable launch vehicle regulations in Part 415 and 417. So if you look at a performance-based approach like we're advocating for, and you look at an example like flight safety systems, one of the most important aspects of our vehicle and the thing really that is the focus of the FAA's regulatory approach, if you take a prescriptive approach and you tell an industry that this is exactly what to do to be safe, so to speak, then you limit innovation that can actually improve safety. And we see that with the flight safety system that's dictated by the current regulations. It takes a traditional approach, whereas we at SpaceX, in partnership with the Air Force, have actually moved to what's called an autonomous flight safety system, which is a much more responsive approach to safety than a traditional flight safety system. And that would not have happened under the existing regulations. It happened because the Air Force took the initiative to drive that. We worked with the Air Force, and then we convinced the FAA to accept this other approach, despite the fact that their regulations demand a less safe approach.
And I'll add, and I think an important point to that, given that the FAA licenses reusable launch vehicles differently, Blue Origin has been operating its New Shepard system from West Texas, and on board that vehicle is an autonomous flight safety system that we have used now for 2 years. And we were able to move through review of that system and vetting of that system with FAA under their reusable launch vehicle regulations, because the approach of those regulations is not prescriptive. They are a system safety review, a performance-based review, and that's why we've advocated for using that set of regulations as the basis for development of a new set of regulations going forward. So there's this dichotomy in the industry where some of us have been able to have a little bit of flexibility in innovation, and the primary hurdles that we see, back to your original question, are there regulations that inhibit progress? The process-based regulations as far as how you move through the application process are very, very difficult for the cadence that we're trying to achieve as launch operators. So the 6-month review timeline of a license application, when you update something about the vehicle, having to maintain that information with the FAA and have them review, sometimes starting anew, an entire license application. So FAA is a bit constrained into how they can move through the licensing process because of the existing regulations, and that applies to any vehicle architecture, and that's something that we focused on very heavily in this ARC effort to update.
Thank you. I've exceeded my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman.